Well, hey there, and welcome back to Stuff in Excel. So you often get spreadsheets that have incomplete data files. So some of the rows in the data file will be full of data. Some of the rows will have some data, but some blank cells. And then some of the rows are just totally blank. Now, to do a proper analysis, you may want to get rid of those blank rows, but you want to keep all the rest of the data. And you don't want to delete the blank cells because those rows that they're in have other data. So how do you do that? Well, we're going to look at several ways first to identify those blank cells and blank rows. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple ways to get rid of them. And I got one really quick and simple way to get rid of those blank rows right at the end of the video. So watch the whole thing, stay tuned, and we'll show you how to get it done.
Let's start off with a really simple example. So we've got a list of numbers here on the screen, and between each number is a blank row. Okay, that's a blank row. Row 2, row 4 is a blank row. Row 6 is a blank row. So I've got a blank row in every even numbered row. Now, assuming there's no other data out here to the right, and all we want to do is get rid of those rows, then it would be a very simple task. We're simply going to highlight all of our rows of data. We will use Control G to bring up our specials window. Now there's three different ways to get to this window. So you click on special, you're going to get this go to special screen here, and it's got a lot of information on it, the different things you can isolate by. Now I can get this another way simply by hitting the F5 key. That'll bring up the same window. I go to special and I get that. Another way to do this is to go up to your home tab, and if you go all the way over to the far right under select, you're going to see down here the fourth item down is go to special, brings up that exact same window. So several different ways. I'm going to get there by going Control G and then click on special, and I want to highlight all of the blank cells. So it's going to identify all the blank cells for me. I hit OK. It's going to identify those. Now all I have to do to get rid of those, I put my cursor over any one of them, hit Control minus, and then I'm going to delete the entire row. Actually, it'll delete every row that is identified as a blank. I hit OK, and they're all gone, and now all those extra rows are gone, and these are compressed. Now that's a really simple example, and we also have to know here that there's absolutely nothing out here to the right past column AC. If there's anything out past column AC, then we would have eliminated that data even though we might not have wanted to. So let's look at an example like that. So here we've got some information. We got 5 columns: employee number, first name, last name, city, and state. Now the first line, row 12, is got employee number 10041. It's Richard Jones, Raleigh, North Carolina. Row 3 appears to be blank. We're again assuming that there's nothing out here past row O, or column O. Row 4, we have employee number 10220. We also have Dan. We don't have a last name, but we have Nashville and Tennessee. Row 5, we have 10699, Bob, no last name, Cookville, and no state. Then we have the rest of these. It appears we also have blank rows in rows 7, 9, and 11. Now, if I was to highlight all this and then hit my Control G blanks, special blanks, that's going to highlight not only it'll highlight every blank cell in that range, including cells that are in rows that have other data. Now, if I was to hit Control I at this point and delete all those rows, what happens is it not only deletes the rows that are blank, but also deletes any row that has a blank cell in it, which means I lose a lot of data. You can see how I've just lost a whole lot of data there. And a lot of those rows had data in them that I might want to keep. So how do I do that? How do I keep that information and just get rid of the blank rows? Well, there's another way to do this. What we can do is we can highlight our columns, go up to the Data tab, and hit Filter. Now, when I hit Filter, it actually adds a filtering tool to each one of the column headers. Now, I could get this same filtering tool if I change this to a table, but right now I just want to keep it as a range of data. So if I hit this and I go to select all down here on my filter and turn them all off, but turn back on the blanks. I only want to show the rows that have blanks. When I do that, it gets rid of all the things because those all had something in them, right? And we can get rid of do the same thing for each one of the others. They're already isolated, just blanks. And so now what we can do is we can now do our Control G, and it will highlight all of those blanks for us. we can now do Control I, and I can delete the entire sheet row. And when I do that, I can do that. Now when I turn off my filter up here in the middle, watch what happens. All the stuff comes back, even the rows that have blank cells in them, but I didn't lose any of that data. So that's another way to do that. Now the easiest way to do this, and probably the most efficient and best way to do this, is to use Power Query. So how do we do that? I'm going to turn that filter off. And so what we've got is I'm going to highlight my data again. We're going to go to Data up here on the top ribbon, and I'm going to go down here under my Get and Transform Data. I'm going to go to From Table Range, and when I do that, it's going to open up Power Query for me. Now Power Query is going to be a really powerful tool. There are actually tools within Power Query that aren't in Excel, and one of those tools is this Remove Rows tool up here. So this is the data that we had in our spreadsheet. I'm going to go to Remove Rows, and one of the options is under Power Query is to remove the blank rows. Excel or Power Query is intuitive enough to understand which rows of this range have no data in them at all, and it's going to only eliminate the rows that have 0 data. Any row that has any data at all will be kept. So all I got to do is say Remove Blank Rows, and it does it for me. Now when I hit Close and Load and go back to Close and Load, there's my data. It's going to be right here. It's in a table format, and it's eliminated the blank rows but kept any row that has data. So the easiest way to do this is using Power Query. Hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you again real soon.